Okay, so I think we can start. Maybe a couple of more people may be joining later. So, welcome to week 8. We were on week 8 of prayers and meditations by the Mother. And we had the collective prayer, common prayer to discuss or reflect upon of February 12, 1914. Yeah, that's what I've shared on the screen. So, yeah, I would just request one by one if you could just share your reflections, your contemplations, insights connected to this prayer. Unmute and share one by one.
Yeah, I'll go, Monica. Able to hear me, Monica?
Yes, Chitraji, now we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, this prayer is somewhat, I feel every prayer is deep, but this one is very deep, I feel, actually. Because first to do this thing or that, after all, that is not of much importance. At a particular mode of action will be the best utilization of a certain faculty, a certain temperament. First line I can understand, to do this thing or that, yeah. We need not discriminate, this work we have to do, this work we need not do, and we have to do the work for the sake of work. Okay. But next line, at a particular mode of action will be the best utilization of a certain faculty, a certain temperament. That I can't understand much. I need some clarity from you, actually. And next, I feel actually in Bhagavad Gita also there are some verses in Karma Yoga and Sankhya Yoga. If you do your work without, expecting any fruits, then that it's a yoga, actually. So even the Mother mentioned here, no, the most contradictory in appearance. Yes. When Arjuna asked the same question to Sri Krishna, because that for fighting against the brothers, then how it will be a yoga, how it is genuine. When Arjuna was very much confused in that state, Sri Krishna answered the same thing, actually. You should do it with samatha, all the works. So I feel that verse is very suitable for this line, most contradictory in appearance. Okay, coming to the day-to-day life, and sometimes I feel the works are some of the rituals, following some rituals, or sometimes doing some works monotonously. I feel very, after the work is finished, I used to feel exhaust feeling used to come for me, actually. So I don't know whether the samarpan is not enough, or yeah, that journey is still for me, it is there, actually. And in the second para also, Mother mentioned, no, Mother, yeah, nothing should be treated lightly and with indifference. Even the least circumstances, the smallest acts have a great importance and should be seriously considered. When you are in ordinary consciousness, you have to see, I understood like this, you have to give importance what work you have to do, what work you should not, involve. I don't know, that meaning came to me. Because next line also she is telling like that, no? For we must try at every moment to do that which will make the identification of our consciousness with the eternal consciousness easy. Yeah, that line, yeah, again, I thought like that, actually. Whichever work is suitable for your nature, or which is connecting you with the divinity, you can select that work. Other works you need not. I don't know. This thing came to me, actually. Then, yeah. that personal disinterestedness, last mother mentioned, no, it is, I think it is that samatha again, as their foundation, perfect disinterestedness, personal disinterestedness should find their full value. It looks samatha for me actually. This is the thing I mean, only vague ideas I get. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, Chitraji.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So we'll later reflect upon what you wanted to ask. Later in collective discussion, after everyone has shared, we'll go touch that point. Okay, so anyone else who wants to go next, share their reflections?
I went through this, and the first half of the first paragraph I could understand to some extent, where all actions, whatever they may be, even the most contradictory in appearance, can be an expression of thy law. To some extent I understood it, but to some extent I couldn't. And the last three lines of this paragraph was a total bumper, because I felt into principles or rules in the ordinary human consciousness, but a law of attitude, of a constant and prevailing consciousness. I couldn't nail it. I couldn't understand it fully. The next paragraph is relatively simple, and about us being giving it the maximum importance of having a personal disinterestedness, and yet having a certain rule of conduct. I understand that a certain discipline to be established. But these last four lines, which you have highlighted in yellow, these just went bumper. Otherwise, I was okay with it. It's a very, very deep one, a deep prayer in which we have to, our attitude towards the way we think and behave has to come online. So I felt that maybe you or anyone along with that would clarify or get some inspiration.
Okay. Yes. Let's see, Jyotsna ji. Yeah, I've underlined the point that you shared, the attitude. Yeah, we'll reflect upon that as we go on. Okay, so who goes next? Who wants to go next? Share their reflections on the prayer.
I can go next, Monica. So, as Chitraji and Jyotsnaji also said, I also picked up on sort of this two seemingly contrasting thing that the mother is talking about here. So first, I think she's talking from a place of when she says, when conscious with thy supreme consciousness, one considers all earthly circumstances, one sees their complete relativity. So she's talking from a very different space, from a different center. And then hence she's saying that from that center, it looks like one clearly sees everything is relative, everything is dependent on each other, everything is kind of like there is no absolute that one should give very much importance to. That's what I understood. And therefore she's saying that to do this or that, it is not of much importance. Yet I feel what she's trying to say is that yet it shows up as a clarity that what would be the best way forward. I mean, it does not, in the same breath, she's saying, I think she's saying that it does not matter what action you do, and yet there is some clarity that dictates which way to go forward. So again, from the same space, she is also saying that, like both Chitraji and Jyotsnaji just said that, whatever, even if they appear contradictory in nature, they can still be, like, you can still see behind the facade of contradiction to see it can still be the expression of the same law. And then the lines that follow, to me also those lines, I agree, they look very a bit dense. But what I understood as the gist is that she's talking about a presence here, like dhyan, like being present. When she is talking about that no principle is required, no rule is required, but a law of attitude, of prevailing consciousness, it can be left. So to me, that I felt that that probably means that being in presence or being in dhyan, that is all that's required, or that is maybe available only from that center. Now, in contrast, she talks about the other center in the second paragraph, when we fall back into ordinary consciousness. And here she sees, because see, I feel like when I look at my life and I see everyday life, no, and something does look very important, something does look right, and other things do look wrong. So when I am in that mode, then I think what the mother is advising is that, yes, you do give great importance to even the smallest of acts. And then I feel what she's trying to probably convey, or what I'm getting, is that the guiding factor could be to do that which will make the identification of our consciousness with the eternal consciousness easy. So here she's saying, yes, pay more attention, pay more focus, but this I felt could be taken as the guiding principle, and avoid carefully all that could be an obstacle to this identification. And here from this mode, she is saying that the rules of conduct apply. And I have this question here, like in this place, like in our everyday mode, it is then that the rules of conduct, having as their foundation perfect personal disinterestedness, should find their full value. Because I think this is the thing that I struggle with, which is in this everyday life, how to find that perfect personal disinterestedness. And I thought that this is something that that doesn't come easy. So that was my question there. If someone could clarify. Yes, and then in the end also she says, thou art the reason of our existence and our goal. So no matter where we find ourselves, she in the end reminds us that he, or thou art the reason for our existence and our goal. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Shilpi. Yes. Great. So, Gurpreet ji or Swapna, if you've already gone through the prayer, if you have anything to share, that any reflections, and then Gurpreet ji, if you want to go first. Okay, so let me pick just to save time. Gurpreet ji, would you like to share whatever reflections coming to you right now? Are you there, Gurpreet ji? Ping pong. Gurpreet ji. Okay, she's not there, or maybe, I don't know. Swapna, would you like to share anything on this prayer right now?
I think, Monica, just a general sense of,
Please.
I'd say the general sense that it reflects my current experience. So seeing the relevancy of mother's prayers, right? She was the mother, and still she wrote things that, you know, I, in my everydayness of life and all my mixed elements, if you'd like, you know, can relate to, right? That was the specialness of her prayers, that it could be something that can be accessed at whatever point. And so this one right now helping me see that, one, this element of not having a preference, not having a desire, like that being reminded to me. The samatha, the disinterestedness, as well as this opportunity to practice in every moment, which is the beauty of the yoga, you know, that in whatever I'm doing, in the smallest of movements, and this line that you have, yet a particular mode of action will be the best utilization of a certain faculty, a certain temperament. It's almost like a riddle, you know, as in every moment I can think of, or not think of even, but perhaps certain faculty or certain aspect of my temperament can be worked on. We'd looked at, there's also like a meditation, you know, on the psychic being, where Dr. Basu draws the analogy of, as the psychic being comes forward, it is met by the best aspects of the outer personality. And I feel like this line that you have highlighted underscores that, you know, of like, in every moment, what is the best, what is the best aspect of my external temperament that can be worked on in that moment, and that could be offered into the fire. So it's a mixture of surrender as well as of very conscious step by step, moment to moment collaboration. I feel like this prayer has all those elements for me.
Yeah, anything more, Swapna?
I think that's it right now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Gurpreet ji, are you there?
Yeah, Monica. I'd gone for a few seconds.
That's okay.
But
So,
I'm back.
Yeah, so would you like to share your reflections on this prayer?
Monica, nothing much, because I read it many times over and over again. And honestly, I found myself very incapable of really understanding it. And I'm really looking forward to your explanation this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. So in later, if you feel like sharing later, just and share. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's see. I think half or more than half, I think you already have collectively shared the relevances, you know, the prime importance. But let's see what rest is to unfold here. So I was reading something by Sri Aurobindo, what he has to say on mother's prayers, meditations and prayers. And I think we had discussed it in the beginning also. The small little paragraph that Sri Aurobindo shares on why is mother praying to herself? You know, why is this, when mother is the divine mother, then why is she praying to her own self? Yeah. So Sri Aurobindo.
Monica, if I may interrupt, please.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could explain this prayer, especially line by line, because
Yes.
Yeah.
I will do that. Yeah. So just wanted to share one line that Sri Aurobindo shares, that mother in earthly nature is lower nature, is praying to the mother in higher nature. I think that's very obvious to now each one of us, that the lower nature of the mental, the vital, the physical, that is the most bothersome for each one of us. That has to be transformed. Okay. So for the transformation, we need light. And that is why prayer comes into picture, because light is there as our essence, but it is not all the time kind of very obvious to us, owing to the presence of these emotional mental mixtures in our being. So that is the prayer. Whenever we are praying, we are actually praying to our own higher self. And that is what Sri Aurobindo says, that mother in the lower nature is praying to the mother in divine mother in higher nature. So just wanted to share that because I just read it again, and I think that's very important. Yeah. So February 12, 1914, when conscious with thy supreme consciousness, one considers all earthly circumstances. When conscious, this is the premise. What is the premise? When conscious with thy supreme consciousness, when you have full identification there, when you are conscious of the divine presence, then one considers all earthly circumstances, one sees their complete relativity. So as if imagine that you are standing on a mountain. From the mountain you have a very large view of your life situations, the past, the future, the present, how it is happening, why is it happening. And there you see that everything has its relative value. For example, I may fall down. Now falling down and learning from that fall has a relative value. It is important in that phase of my life. It's not altogether important, but it's important in that little phase of my life. Yeah. So it's relative, and says, one sees their complete relativity and says, to do this thing or that, after all, that is not of much importance. So once we have the larger view, once we are conscious of supreme consciousness, when we are identified in those moments when we are one with ourselves, our true selves, there we see that it doesn't matter whether I read mother's agenda or collected works of the mother, or I play with my child. It doesn't matter. But from that state of consciousness, it does not matter. So when imagine that mother is playing with a child, when mother is playing with a child, or mother is reading or answering to a question of sadhak, mother has equal sincerity to both. But the ordinary consciousness that we live in, we are insincere. We think this work is less important, that work is more important. So let me do it frivolously. Let me do it very insincerely. So that's the case, I believe mother is sharing here, that when conscious with thy supreme consciousness, I clearly see that to do this thing or that thing, after all, is not much importance. Why is it is of not much importance? Because even when I am in the ashram, my frivolous and insincere attitude can actually corrupt even being in the ashram. So although mother is next to me, but that is not helping me much because I am so frivolous and insincere in my attitude. The attitude matters a lot. So to do this thing, to be in the ashram, for example, or to be out of the ashram, to be doing this session on prayers and meditations, or to not do that session, that is of not much importance. Yet, mother says, yet a particular mode of action will be the best utilization of a certain faculty, a certain temperament. Now I believe mother is kind of hinting us towards our swadharma, what we call as our inner truth. Everyone has an inner truth. Everyone has a swadharma. Just like Chitraji was sharing, Arjun's dharma was to fight. He was a Kshatriya. Yeah. So if he would not have been fighting and sitting in the tent, he would have been very, very restless because that is against his dharma. So mother is sharing here, yes, although that is true that everything is relative, everything has its relative value, yet according to your inner truth, according to your inherent capacities, one or the other action that you take up in your life has the best utilization of your capabilities. For example, I may be very effortlessly natural in writing something, and yet another person is very beautiful at designing something. So that is the natural best utilization of a certain faculty, certain temperament. We are all born with a certain temperament, and there is a purpose why we are born with a certain temperament. That is the permutation and combination we have to take as the base for our blossoming. It's not that I would not blossom in other fields of life, but that would be my base, because there I have already a set kind of a mastery. I already feel effortless kind of flowing when I do that thing. So that is what I felt that mother is saying here, that a particular mode of action for each person according to his own inner truth. And mother says that it is not very easy to find that. For those of us who have come far away from that, following the normal education and fitting into all the proper, like becoming like boxes going through education, one needs a very precise observation of their own life if I am to find what is the best utilization of my temperament. So one has to slowly be very precise and find it for ourselves. All actions, whatever they may be, even the most contradictory in appearance, yes, can be an expression of thy law, to the extent that they are infused with the consciousness of that law, which is not a law of practical application that can be translated into principles or rules in the ordinary human consciousness, but a law of attitude. So this is a little bigger sentence, but the crux of the matter is that the attitude, as some of you were sharing, the attitude that I take in any little ordinary event of my life is all that matters. What is the attitude? I may be actually being very harsh to a person, but in that harshness, what is the attitude? Am I hinting that person towards his inner truth? It's allowed. It's allowed. It's more than welcome. But if that harshness is at the level of ordinary consciousness, when I'm not aware of my own inner truth or the other person's kind of status, then that has to be not done absolutely. And that is what mother shares later. But when in a ordinary consciousness, it is very clear cut. You have to be following the ethics and moralities. That is why we have signals on the traffic light on the way, because those of us who are completely one with the divine truth can easily use their intelligence and know where to stop, where not to stop. But those of us who are more in percentage, who are not identified or not even on the journey of finding their true self, they need to put themselves in a certain order so that there is not a chaos in the operations of life. Otherwise you will just kill the other person if you're not stopping seeing the amount of traffic which is there. And that is why for ordinary consciousness, some ethics of conducts, mode of conducts, they become important. Yeah. So even most contradictory in appearance, which may appear like a slap to another person, may be required just because it is directing that person towards the inner truth. But it is very rare because it needs a certain purity in our life. And we don't have that purity. Usually we have an ego mixture along with that purity. So we can actually be very hypocrite in the name of harshness, or just using this example of being harsh to a certain person so that you can direct him towards inner truth. One needs a certain purity here. Otherwise it can be just very satisfying and dominating for the ego. And then only one would know whether it was coming from the ego or whether you wanted good for the other person. Yeah. So that is the thing where mother says it may be contradictory in appearance, and yet it will be a law of thy law, expression of thy law, the law of truth. What is the law of truth? That which remains me in the truth, lets me remain in the truth, and that which also allows the other person to detach from whatever he is attaching to and go back to his truth again, to align back with his truth. That is what is kind of a reference here, the expression of thy law, that which is empowering for myself and for the other person. That is also one other signal, that the other person, although he may be feeling that, oh my god, why did the person insult me or reject me, but slowly he would realize that that rejection was for his own good, so that he could come back home. Yeah. So this empowers the other person, although in the beginning it may appear like a shattering kind of a slap. Yeah. Yes. And then continuing with the last line of this particular longer line, but a law of attitude, of a constant and prevailing consciousness, something that cannot be expressed in formulas but may be lived. Now, this is a reference to my attitude towards day to day, little or bigger movements of life. You know, when Mother Sri Aurobindo say all life is yoga, then nothing can be not yoga. Even when I am talking to a person, little chats, you know, that we have during the day with our friends or anything, that has to now inculcate a sense of purity and not a sense of kind of insincerity, you know, because if we are to walk on this path, if we are to walk on the path of yoga, then slowly all the actions which are frivolous in nature have to become purer and sincere, you know. So this is the law of attitude, a constant and prevailing consciousness. Kabir kya kehte hain? What does Kabir say? Kabir say that mera ghar, my home, is now at the top of this mountain and a noose is hanging on my head. The moment I slip, I am gone. So in the utmost awareness, vigilance, he has found rest. That has to be slowly our aspiration if we are to walk more and more on this path. Yeah, that no matter whatever happenings are going on in my life, whatever interactions are going on in my life, I am trying at least or aspiring to be at my utmost sincerity. Yeah, and not like a frivolousness. But we can also go to frivolousness, which is described in the later paragraph. How can we go to frivolousness? Here. But as soon as one falls back into the ordinary consciousness, now in the ordinary consciousness, you have to be following the law of ethics, law of a conduct, because we cannot be playful here, because somebody's life can be at risk if I am playful. Yeah, but when I am identified with the law of truth, then you can take it as play. Then you can, you know, maybe be frivolous or joke about something, but the joke would be taken in a right attitude. But when we are in an ordinary attitude, ordinary consciousness, which is our state most of the times, nothing should be treated lightly. So each experience of life has to become my experience for yoga, raw material for yoga. Okay, why did I talk to that person in such a such way, for example? Okay, why do I get excited or, you know, maybe begin to shout at my kids that easily? What is going on in me? So each and every act has to become a raw material for yoga. What is yoga? Union with my own higher truth, my inner truth. Yeah, that which is full of light. So nothing should be treated lightly. I cannot say ये तो ऐसे ही हो गया, ना ना ना, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. हुआ कैसे ये मुझे जानना है. I have to be very sincere कि ये मेरे मुंह से निकला कैसे. How did I become so angry at such a stupid thing, if I call it that stupid? Yeah. So little things I have to take as a raw material for yoga. Anything that happens in the day-to-day life. Nothing should be treated lightly and with indifference. The least circumstances, the smallest acts have a great importance and should be considered seriously considered. Now, I believe, I may be wrong, I believe that Mother is just hinting us towards a sincere and a purer life for those of us who are ready for it. Because I see personally in my own experiences that there are many states, days, phases in my day where I turn insincere out of an older pattern or tendency. Why do I do that? How long can I continue to do that? Yes, Swapna, you have something to say?
Yeah, just on that very point, I just thought I would put this to you, like about you know, being really sincere about every action. Why did I get angry at that person, or why did I speak to that person, or finding underlying motives, right? Getting to know oneself. In my experience, sometimes what I end up kind of tussling with is being on that constantly, right? Like always analyzing myself, always looking at everything through a magnifying glass, dissecting. And it can sometimes end up feeling exhausting. And then in juxtaposition to doing that, I once in a while go to, what if it simply is, Mother, I shouted. I don't know why I shouted, or I'm not quite sure. I offer it to you. You know, like the two, the one which can take quite a while of dissection and analysis, but can leave me feeling somewhat exhausted. Sometimes it leaves me feeling uplifted. And then the best I have is, okay, maybe it's too much somehow, or somehow there's a vital mixture in it, or yeah, I don't know what, if you have an insight in that, you know, when
Beautiful.
it gets
Yes.
too much.
No, I think it's very important, Swapna, what you shared. So yes, I think I know, or at least I have a hint why it can be so exhausting. See, we abuse our mind. You know, we all know that we abuse our mind. So when the mind is actually required for looking at my hidden intentions, then the mind is feeling tired. For example, I'll take an example, my kid. Okay, so my kid is very super busy throughout the day. When I call him to write, okay, let's write one page now, because he's learning to write, he feels extremely drained, you know, as if, oh my god, I have no energy left for this writing. But the moment he goes out to play, where he has fun, yeah, there he is not at all feeling drained. Now this investigation that mother is calling us for is something which is new for us. Why? Because the ordinary way of our living life is we just keep on abusing the mind, but we are hardly aware that we are abusing the mind, and it's going on and on and on and on in a background, like a background noise. And I don't even know I am draining my energies here. So when the mind is actually needed for a dissection or an investigation, sincere investigation, the mind feels drained. And I am completely with you here that one of the ways which is very commonly used with our integral yoga here is to offer it to the mother, especially in our cases where when the mind is just obsessively in loop thinking about other things also, and now on the top of it I have to dissect, mother, I don't have that energy, so I offer it to you. And that is a perfectly beautiful way to progress ahead. Yeah, so I am with you that it can be draining. I don't know if anyone else has to add on, you know, or maybe edit something here. Yeah.
Many times, Monica, I feel exhausted like that. Yeah. Many numberless times, I can say. Again and again, I will come and offer to mother, but that exhaustion is happening till today. Actually.
Beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Totally with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
In my personal experience, I realized that I used to feel maximum exhausted when I would go through sessions with patients, and I would listen and listen to their stories, and then I would try to put myself into their position. That means literally leaving what you are thinking and going into their place. And the moment I would do that and listen to that 1 or 1.5 hour session, I would return home drained. But when I offered it to the mother, I got my energy back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would just like, it was like, filling up a balloon. And here you take what you give full. So I think if you just sit down quiet and start and offer it and just keep sitting there quiet, suddenly the energy does return to quite an extent.
Yeah. Beautiful. Totally with you. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Anyone else? And this is what, what you guys were sharing. This is where we come directly to this last line in the second paragraph: perfect personal disinterestedness, here. So whenever I'm offering my work to the mother, or offering any interaction to the mother, offering any relationship to the mother, what is actually happening? Let's see, what is actually happening. I am saying to the mother, mother, I don't have anything to gain out of this. If you feel fit, if you deem fit, let this interaction happen. So what we are actually doing is we are keeping the beggar tendency in us, the ego tendency in us, which always has something to gain from any relationship or any interaction or any worldly matter. We are keeping the beggar tendency at bay. We are putting it at side. We are saying to the beggar, okay, just rest for a while. We are not feeding you. We are not living by your dictates. And that is where perfect personal disinterestedness comes into the picture. So I have no personal interest of my own fulfillment from this interaction, relationship, or any external situation. Now you are acting from a personal fulfillment or abundance rather than acting from always a personal beggar inside us. That is what we do, most of the times. Even our vocations or our work, they just become a kind of a tool for the beggar to fulfill itself. We don't even know. We may have started with a beautiful vision, right? A work may have started with a beautiful vision, but we don't even know how the beggar overtakes the work, and the beggar begins to kind of suck the work, drain the work for its own fulfillment. And we know that the beggar can never get fulfilled. It is the nature of the beggar to not get fulfilled. So this is where personal perfect disinterestedness comes into picture. Yeah. Why will I feel the need to even offer it to mother in this case? She will do what is best for me. The other, Taru, I'm not sure what you're sharing. Can you unmute and share? Is that a possibility? Too much chaos. Acha. ठीक है. So come later if you can, because I don't know if I got this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we were at the second paragraph. Let's kind of take the thread from there. Nothing should be treated lightly. Even the smallest acts have a great importance and should be seriously considered. For we must try at every moment to do that which will make the identification of our consciousness with the eternal consciousness easy. Now, this cannot be done for those of us who are not yet ready for this union. है ना? So Sri Aurobindo says free will is there. If you want to surrender, surrender comes moment by moment, free will. I may be living a material life and I'm actually okay with that. I don't want to get more purer. I'm okay with my struggles in my relationships. So this path is not for me. But if I have suffered enough in my relationships and I don't want to suffer anymore, I want to find a beautiful way for myself, then this purity which mother talks about, this purity where mother says, for we must try at every moment to do that which will make the identification of our consciousness with the eternal consciousness easy. What is this mother talks of? This is attaining purity in life, getting rid of the ego's mixture from our day-to-day interactions. Yeah, this is what mother is hinting us towards. And only for those of us who want this in life now. Those of us who are okay with the mixture can go ahead with the mixture for as long as required. Yeah, yes, Chitra ji.
Yeah, then we can avoid some works which we feel it is not true to that, that inner, inner truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can avoid. Yeah. And all the relationships also, no? In
Totally.
that, yeah.
Completely. Yes. Yes.
Then it won't end up in any exhaustion actually.
Yes.
So that discrimination should be there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. So I would like to point a little bit here. Yes, Josna ji, please share. Then I will go.
Actually, when such an event is going on, that little voice within knows that this is going against the eternal consciousness. This is going against surrender.
Yeah.
This is going against those rules of conduct. We know, but we continue because there's a kind of a vital pleasure in it. But if we actually just sit back and we don't indulge in it, our energy doesn't go.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yes. Yes. So this is a hint from the mother towards kind of, gaining more and more purity in life, or getting rid of the emotional, mental, vital mixture from our being. That I should be conscious whether it is making my identification with the eternal consciousness easy, or is it an obstacle in that identification. Now, if any work or any interaction is an obstacle, I can avoid that work or an interaction or a person or that relationship. Yeah. But having said that, there is also a possibility that, you know, there are two kinds of discomfort. We have to be very sensitive to kind of discomfort. One discomfort comes when I begin to do something, when I begin to kind of cross my comfort zones. Okay. For example, I'm not used to riding a bike, and now I want to learn a bike, and I'm getting on the bike, and there is a discomfort. Yeah. There is not an easiness, there is a discomfort. Now, this is an auspicious discomfort because I want to learn a bike. Yeah. There is another discomfort which is of a lower nature, and only we individually would know what kind of a discomfort it is. I may be interacting with a person who has, I believe, more better knowledge than me, better wisdom than me, and I want to interact with that person. Now, interacting with that person is not easy. Okay. My interacting with that person is actually challenges my tendencies and my behaviors and patterns. But shall I stop myself owing to the discomfort, or shall I go ahead and take the discomfort and pain, and hence I see that it is expanding my boundaries, and I should walk on this path and take the pain that is given to my tendencies. Now, what kind of a discomfort I am going through, only I can know, and this nobody can decide for me. Yeah. So again, we have to be very careful that saying that I want to be easy, saying that I want to be okay with myself, we actually may be just limiting ourselves at many, many moments. So depending on what is our aspiration, how much really I want to progress, uh, only that can guide me further. Yeah. And obviously mother is always there 24/7 for the guidance, whether I should go ahead, whether I should stop myself, whether it is helping me on the path or becoming an obstacle on the path, what is happening, so only I can know. Yeah. Yes, so this is already done. I think Chitraji already shared that we can avoid many, many situations which could be obstacle to this perfect identification. And then it is then that the rules of conduct having their foundation, perfect personal disinterestedness should find their full value. So यहाँ पे हमने we have already discussed that whenever I offered anything to the mother, or any interaction, any job, my whole life, then I am just saying that I am not bringing the beggar on board. I am just fulfilled as I am, and I don't have any personal interest from this interaction, relationship, or anything. Yeah. So that is how when we talk about निष्काम कर्म, this is what is निष्काम कर्म, कि आपकी उसके साथ कोई कामना अटैच नहीं है. You are just doing it for the sake of the work, because the work needs to be done. It is a right kind of a work. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think that's it. With peace in my heart, with light in my mind. Now, how can I have peace in the heart? How can I have light in the mind? Because mostly I have confusions in the mind and doubt in the mind. Mother is saying now, I think this is something very beautiful. I kind of get inspired again and again through my challenges, that whenever mother may start with a mental reflection or whatever she has observed in day-to-day life, but she finds a solace in a certitude that your victory is there. It's for certain that you are victorious, because there is no other way but the divine. And that is what brings peace into the heart, that truth will always win. Sooner or later truth has to win. Sooner or later, the right will always win. With peace in my heart, with light in my mind. Now there can be light in my mind, knowing that with certitude that the divine victory is for sure, that I will kind of, if I can say, use the word, attain the union if I am to walk on this path. With light in my mind, the hope born of certitude in all my being, I greet thee, O Lord, divine master of eternal love. Now, when Mother talks of love, we have to also see that this looking at our own patterns, this being with ourselves, not abandoning ourselves, looking at our own thoughts, looking closely at our microscopic movements of life. This is an act of love. Mother says love has a transformative power. Only love has transformative power. This microscopic looking of my movements is an act of love. Without love, it is not possible. And just looking does the transformation. We don't have to act, just the looking is enough. The right action is by effect taken. It's an happening then. Yeah. Thou art the reason of our existence and our goal. Are we aware of this? In our day-to-day life, are we aware that you are divine is the reason of my existence? Mostly we are not. We have many reasons of our existence. We have our attachments, we have our loved ones to live for, we have our family to care for, we have our job to look after. Are we aware that what is the reason of my existence? Because if I am not aware, for me it does not exist. It may be there in the background, but if I am not aware of it, for me it is not of no value at all. For me, only attachments matter. For me, only my work matter. Yeah. So I think if we can keep it at least in remembrance and awareness, which all the masters and mystics have again and again kind of pointed us. What was the reason of your existence? Have you forgotten? Kabir ji says again and again. So he says, you are the reason of your existence and also our goal. Why our goal? Because the very task is to transform the crude matter into more and more purity. So purity can be the divine goal, and this unrefined mixture that I have at hand at the moment is my raw material to work upon. So slowly from impurity, I have to move towards purity, and there is no ashamed kind of behavior I have to do, that, oh my God, I am so ashamed, I am full of impurity. No, because that is our task. So how can shame be there? How can guilt be there? That is my task. My task is to hammer this material, to mold and chisel this material that I am made of slowly towards increasing purity. No need of shame and guilt and anything to be there. Yeah. Yes. So any further reflections, those of us who want to share, please, anything which is not clear, which maybe I have missed.
So, Monica, one thing, like the mother starts with when conscious with thy supreme consciousness. And the second paragraph, she says, but as soon as one falls back into ordinary consciousness. So this has been like a situation I've pondered for a period now, that, you know, when one is in elevated state of consciousness, and it is easy to know that, I mean, I'm not saying it is easy to know that. What I'm trying to say is that there is a peace. That's what it translates to for me, that there is a sense of peace, and there is not so much chaos in the mind, and you feel easy. So that, and then fall back into ordinary consciousness, for me, it means that, you know, like too much bhasad in the mind, you know, too many pullings in different directions, and too many actions and reactions and emotions and responses coming up, and feeling very out of control. So I don't know if I have a question, but I just wanted to see if you can reflect upon these two and sort of how we kind of transition from one to the other, or I personally feel we don't even do that transition. Mostly we are in the ordinary consciousness only, but by grace there are some moments sometime when we find the peace. So so if you could just kind of talk about that, about these two states and the transition between the two, and kind of how do we keep rolling about between the two?
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. Shilpi, when you were sharing, I got reminded of this verse from Gita. I may not be using the exact words, where Krishna says that the person who remembers me, kind of attains this full kind of consciousness, who remembers me. And hence, in the previous verse, he says that, hence, remember me at all times. Yeah. So I think I have to be very, very conscious, or be very honest of my ordinary state of consciousness. Now, you very well shared that the first stage, when everything is peaceful and I'm able to operate from a beautiful consciousness, there I have nothing to take care of actually. There everything takes care of itself. So that is not my domain of taking care of. My domain is mostly this ordinary consciousness, where nothing should be treated lightly. So let us take this as our base, क्योंकि अभी हम यहाँ पे हैं और अभी बहुत समय तक हम यहीं पे रहेंगे. Now, whenever those moments come where consciousness is identified with thy supreme consciousness, actually there is nothing to be taken care of, because the supreme consciousness takes care of itself. But I'm glad that you focused upon this. My state is this ordinary consciousness. So what do I do? What do I do? I think this second paragraph becomes most relevant for me now, where nothing should be treated lightly and with indifference. And the least circumstances, the smallest acts have the great importance and should be seriously considered. And then I must try at every moment to do that which will make the identification easy, and to avoid all that which becomes an obstacle. मुझे लगता है कि हमारा जो काम है ज्यादातर वो इस second paragraph से concern रखता है अभी. That's what I feel. And once I'm at this second paragraph for a long period of time, slowly the first paragraph may happen, may not happen. I don't know. Why I don't know, and I don't bother about it, because the second paragraph, the walking on this path, is beauty enough. That's why I do not bother about the kind of realization itself. Yes, Shilpi. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense, Monica, and that is in alignment with what I also, what I've heard so many times and what I feel also. But then again, something comes up inside that says that, if peace is my birthright, if peace is fundamentally what I am, and if peace is anyways where I'm going to end up, is that's where I started from and everything. And then there is this basar that's going on all the time in the mind. Now, I have observed this within myself, that when I am in that place of really a lot of chaos, it's like a tsunami of many things going on. And then from that place, I try to determine what is the right thing to do. And, sometimes it's kind of a hit and a miss, right? But I feel that if, as a first step, if I am able to first find a piece, and then if I'm able to just kind of drop things for a while, kind of get into that sense of peace that reminds me of the moments when I have felt that peace, and then I look at the situation, then I feel like the perspectives shift. And the bhasad may come back after 10 seconds, I'm not saying that, but I feel that when we say this, that that there is a nothing should be treated lightly and with indifference, I get confused a bit, because to me, this sometimes refers to that, just kind of just where you are. From there, you cannot take anything lightly, you cannot take a break, you have to kind of keep going, and then I feel like I exhaust myself and I fall flat on my face over
Yeah,
and
yeah,
over. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Shilpi, I think I get what you are hinting at. So first of all, what you were sharing, I think that's completely, I'm totally in resonance with that. That uh, when the bhasad in the or surface consciousness is going on, the best way possible or the only way possible is to fall into a deeper peace, and then from there look at whatever can be done, so that you get a larger vision or a larger picture or a kind of a stepped back perspective. I'm totally with you. So the peace comes first, and then later may come the right action that may be required in that situation. Now the second thing that you were sharing, and I think there is a confusion regarding that, when we are saying that I am looking at my movements, huh, the only way that I can become exhausted by looking at my movements is that I am working or approaching it at with the mind. I am approaching at the movements with the mind. I am trying to resolve the bhasad. That way it is never going to work, and it is always going to be exhausting. Yeah, so we are not approaching the bhasad or the attachments or whatever keeps me conflicted from the mental perspective. There always exhaustion will be there. The approach that has to be there, looking at the movements of life, when where mother says nothing should be treated lightly, has actually to come from that deeper space that you were sharing in your first the thing that you shared first in your latest sharing, that first I go to access the peace within me, and then I look at the movement. Now when I am looking at the movement from this deeper space, I am actually free of that bhasad. In that moment, that bhasad can lie unresolved, and yet I have had my peace. I have my peace right now, and what matters is peace. Now looking at the bhasad actually puts me back again on the ground, that there is still a lot of work to be done in the lower consciousness, that my union is not perfect, and there is still a lot of mixture of ignorance which will come and again on the surface, and I will be drowned again and again in challenges. But having said that, I also have access to this deeper peace at all times of the day or sleep. Yeah, and now looking from this deeper vision, I don't feel exhausted, because I'm not trying to mentally resolve the dots of the bhasad. Yeah, so I feel that the exhaustion will come when I'm mentally trying to do something about it, because mind always tries to do something about it. I just have to have a realization which puts me back on the ground, that yes, there is a lot that is still required to be purified. Yeah, so it puts me back on the ground. I'm not up in the air that yes, the work has been done. When mother says that don't get satisfied with yourself, so I'm not getting satisfied with myself. Yeah, so I don't know if that adds on to what you were sharing, or yeah.
Yeah, that helps, Monica. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Is bhasad by any chance confusion?
Yeah, bhasad is unresolved conflicts, confusions in the head, unresolved emotional attachments, all that conflicts the mental and emotional space.
Okay. In other words, what you were explaining was that there has to be a kind of an awareness. Every time you've got to be aware of your the confusion going on. Step back, go to the location of peace, sit down, and put your mind in your heart at peace, and then you will know that okay, that confusion it passes off.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, exactly,
Yeah,
Joseph.
so it's just, but I find that awareness is not mental. Awareness is a feeling you get.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
mental. Yeah, yeah.
it's like something you feel that no, I have to just be aware of the situation.
Yes,
If
beautiful.
that is confusion.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. Yes, Swapna, you want to share?
Yeah, a few times what was coming to me is there is a technique which I've heard, I think it's from Mother and Sherpa in those words, though I've heard it definitely from different sadhaks at the ashram. No, I'm sure in Sunlit Path, maybe Mother speaks of it, of seeing one's actions on a screen. And then it's been taken a step further to me of like, you know, in the evenings, every day, one can project one's day and then just put right what one sees could, you know, I could have done that differently, or that could have been done in a better way, or what, you know, whatever one sees. But just for me, being reminded that there is a certain, even modern science says, you know, there's like different wavelengths that our brain goes into in meditation or in awareness. I can't remember which one was which, but there's like alpha, beta, delta, gamma. And there's a certain wavelength that happens when one is in deep meditation. And I was thinking of that exercise of the screen in relation to this part, right? Like looking at everything, since or a few of us have shared that we can get exhausted by it, that then it's being done from this mental place, which is full of judgment, which is of a wavelength of the brain that does exhaust. And yet I could do the same exercise from this other, like more of a meditative place, and just simply putting things right on the screen, putting things in their place, as I've heard also mothers say, and that apparently it has more power, that they've been able to, there's a doctor called Dr. Joe Dispenza, an American, that has proved also that people's goals and goals, whatever they be, whether they're spiritual or whether they're an outward thing, that from a certain brainwave pattern, that apparently it's easier for them to manifest or happen. So I was thinking from the application of this yoga, from the psychological change, that could be something that can all be drawn together.
Beautiful. Yes, Swapna, totally. Yeah, I think it's good that this point gets resolved here, that it's not a mental judgment that we are doing at our movements, but coming from an awareness or a meditative state or a peaceful state, that yes, just the looking and the seeing, just when we say the Sakshi Bhav, when we go to the witnessing presence is not judgmental in nature, and it is not of mind. It is not a function of mind. So yes, totally with all of you. Yes, good that we got it clear. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so if not anything, I would request actually one of you to read the prayer, if you can, just to end the session, if you can go through the prayer. Anyone maybe who has not read so far or shared so far. Yeah. Anyone who wants to read, who has not shared so far?
May I, Monica?
Yes, please. Yeah.
One sec. February 12th, 1914. When conscious with thy supreme consciousness, one considers all earthly circumstances, one sees this complete relativity and says, to do this thing or that, after all, that is not of much importance, yet a particular mode of action will be the best utilization of a certain faculty, a certain temperament. All actions, whatever they may be, even the most contradictory in appearance, can be an expression of thy law to the extent that they are infused with the consciousness of that law, which is not a law of practical application that can be translated into principles or rules in the ordinary human consciousness, but a law of attitude, of a constant and prevailing consciousness, something that cannot be expressed in formulas but may be lived. But as soon as one falls back into the ordinary consciousness, nothing should be treated lightly and with indifference. The least circumstances, the smallest acts have a great importance and should be seriously considered, for we must try at every moment to do that which will make the identification of our consciousness with the eternal consciousness easy, and avoid carefully all that could be an obstacle to this identification. It is then that the rules of conduct, having as their foundation perfect personal disinterestedness, should find their full value. With peace in my heart, with light in my mind, the hope born of certitude in all my being, I greet thee, O Lord, divine master of eternal love. Thou art the reason of our existence and our goal.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Gurpreet. Thank you for reading it out.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you so much.
I think one thing I think I missed sharing anything on this, where mother says that which is not a law of practical application that can be translated into principles or rules in the ordinary human consciousness. Hota kya hai, when we talk about following our inner truth, and when we talk to people about it, oh, do you think this should be a right way for me to go, or that should be a right way for me? So there is no formula, mother wants to say here. इट कैनॉट बी अ लॉ ऑफ प्रैक्टिकल एप्लीकेशन कि एक फॉर्मूला लगा दिया और उसको हर सिचुएशन में डाल दिया और वो वही वही फॉर्मूला आप हर जगह यूज कर रहे हो. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो द फ्लूइडिटी और अनफोल्डिंग ऑफ लाइफ or in a truth where you cannot use actually one formula without seeing what is the context of situation. So as according to the context of situation, the formula will change. It is a dynamic law. Just like Shri Krishna is notoriously kind of famous for using unethical means for making truth win. Yeah, so that is all allowed. So there is no one formula on which truth operates. I think that we missed sharing upon this, that it is not one formula which can be used in any, without any context, looking at the context, looking at the situations or persons involved. You cannot put it into use like that. It is a very dynamic unfolding of inner truth. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, Monica. Yeah, it is. Yeah, about that society rules also, no?
Yeah.
Actually, this should be done in this way. Yeah, that is the
Yes.
all moral principles. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Chitraji, we were sharing earlier that moral principles are required so far I am not united with my inner truth. Once a person is united with the inner truth, he is aware of it. For him, society rules are not of any concern.
Correct.
Yeah. Great. So anything else, or shall we call it a session? Okay, great. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your sharings and reflections, and thank you for joining in.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Monica beautifully explained today.
Yeah, beautiful. Very deep.
I was